In this presentation, we're just going to take a spin around Revit architecture and take a look at some of the advantages of working in a 3D BIM environment. What we have here is a typical single-story residential home, and I can use various tools to spin around and look at the construction of my model. I also can take this model and I can cut into it with a section box to look at it from different directions. Zoom in on it, spin around in some different isometric views. In doing this, it really helps me study my design during the modeling process before I move into construction documents. Another thing that's very handy working in this kind of environment is the fact that no matter what view you're looking at your model, you're always looking at the same model. So for example, if I switch to a left elevation view, and then I go ahead and tile my two views, I can see this window right here. Notice how it selects it in both views. I can come up to the properties of this window, go ahead and change it to a single hung window, and give it an 8-foot head height, and I'll notice that that change happens in my 3D view and in my elevation. So even though it's a different drawing view, it's all pulling from the same information. Another thing that I want to take a look at, let's take this one step further. I'm just going to go ahead and undo to get my standard window back and return back to my default 3D view. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into a 3D view where I also have an MEP model of the same house referenced into my architectural model. So as I cut into the roof, notice that I start to see my MEP systems up in the attic. So I can see my flex ductwork and my air terminals going and feeding the air into the floor below. Next, I'm going to switch to a coordination view where I also brought in structural trusses. By doing this, I can go ahead and do some clash detection and actually study my model with all the different systems built right into the same environment. So I can bring in architectural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, structural, and compare it all in any kind of view that I want. I can cut it, I can create different section views automatically, and I really can study this model and see how these different systems come into play with one another. So you can see working in a 3D BIM environment truly has its advantages, especially when you're trying to get all these different disciplines to work together.